Good evening. This meeting is now being recorded. Welcome to the Department of Transportation's Public Information Meeting for Project 0172-0508. This project will update and install horizontal curve warning signs on local roads throughout 14 towns in District 2, which is located in eastern Connecticut. Tonight, we will be presenting on this project and the safety benefits associated with it. My name is Claire Sylvester, and I am the project engineer for this project from the Department of Transportation's Traffic Safety Unit. I want to thank everyone for taking time to join us. We hope this presentation is informative and that we are able to answer any questions or concerns in the question and answer session that will follow this presentation. If you are viewing this presentation on Zoom, you have the option to view captions or subtitles for this presentation. To turn on this feature, select the CC button at the bottom right corner of your screen to turn on the captioning. Then choose the language by selecting the settings wheel next to the CC button. Select Captions, Subtitles, and select the desired language. Before we start the presentation and introduce the project team, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and explain the format for tonight's meeting. Our presentation will last approximately 20 minutes, and once it is completed, we will host a live question and answer session. You will have 3 ways of communicating with us during the live Q&A. The first method is to ask your question directly into the Zoom event. You can ask a question by clicking on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the meeting page and type in your question in the pop-up window. You can also ask a question by sending an email to dot.project0172-0508@ct.gov or by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. The comment period will be open through December 21st, 2023, and you can send an email or leave a voicemail until that date. We also have a project webpage which contains the same information that I've previously explained on how to provide comments or ask questions. The webpage address is portal.ct.gov/DOT0172-0508. A recording of tonight's presentation, including the live event Q&A, will be stored at portal.ct.gov/CTDOT-VPIM archive. Lastly, we would greatly appreciate it if you could fill out the very brief feedback survey that is on the project's webpage. Virtual public information meetings are a new development for the department, and the survey will help the department improve these public meetings going forward. Again, the project webpage is portal.ct.gov/DOT0172-0508. There is also a civil rights flyer that is available. The website for that is portal.ct.gov/DOT/business/office of equity/Title VI page. Finally, I would like to reinforce that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. I would now like to introduce the presentation team for tonight. Natasha Fatu is the State Safety Engineer for the state of Connecticut, the head of the safety unit in DOT's Division of Traffic Engineering, and is the principal engineer of CTDOT's Traffic Safety Unit. Balazs Zoke is the supervising engineer of CTDOT's Traffic Safety Unit and project manager for this project. Once again, I'm Claire Sylvester, and engineer in the Safety Engineering Unit, the lead engineer for this project and primary presenter for tonight's meeting. I will also be answering any questions you may have during the live Q&A session. Yi Lu is also an engineer with the Safety Engineering Unit and will be monitoring the project email address and voicemail line for questions and comments during the live Q&A. Now to our presentation. This project involves the review and installation of curve warning signs on town roads in District 2. This project will replace old, faded signs with new ones according to federal guidance. This means that the type and number of signs on curves can change. Since this project will change some of the sign types and their locations, instead of simply just replacing the existing signs, we sought feedback from the towns and set up this meeting to gather questions and concerns. We will start by going over a curve crash history in Connecticut, the benefits of current and requirements for curve signing, the selection and design of these curves, sign installation and removal, the project timeline and cost, and finally the Q&A session. So first, I'll explain why warning signs on curves are important with Connecticut crash statistics. This slide has a lot of statistics, but I'll go through each one. From police crash report data from 2020 through 2022, there were 288,000 crashes in Connecticut. 34,000 of those happened on curves on state roads or town roads. That's 12% of crashes happened on curves in Connecticut. 72,000 of those crashes were fatal and injury crashes, 25% of crashes in Connecticut. About 10,000 of those fatal and injury crashes occurred on curves in Connecticut, so 12% of the fatal and injury crashes. 901 fatal crashes occurred in Connecticut during those years, less than 1% of the total number of crashes. Of those, 284 occurred on curves in Connecticut, 32% of the fatal crashes. Looking at these numbers, it's clear that curves are a prime location for crashes, especially fatal crashes. While fatal crashes make up less than 1% of the crashes in the state, 1/3 of those fatal crashes happened on curves. So what can we do? We can improve driver awareness and response to curves through warning signs. This project looks to do this through a proactive approach, which means putting warning signs on curves before a serious crash can happen, not after. So what does it mean to take a proactive approach to preventing curve crashes with signs? This involves not just putting up warning signs where crashes happened in the past, but looking at all curve locations on the road system to prevent crashes in the future. This is because crash patterns can vary widely year to year. A previous project signed curves on state roads, and this project is a part 2 to address local roads. To show this, the next 3 slides show separate snapshots of crashes at curves on roads in Mansfield over 3 years. This is taken from the Yukon Crash Data Repository, which has publicly available crash data. On this map, each yellow dot represents one crash. The red spots show where there is a higher concentration of crashes. As the slide changes to the next year of crash data, keep an eye on the location of the crashes. There are particular red hotspots at major intersections, but away from intersections, the locations of crashes can change year to year. This first slide shows crash locations in 2020, and now I'll move to the next year. This next slide shows the crash locations in 2021. You may have noticed that even though the red hotspots stayed the same, the small yellow dots moved from the previous year. Remember, these yellow spots are the locations of single crashes. Watch one of the yellow dots to see if they move again when I go to the next slide now. These are the crash locations from 2022. As you may have seen, outside of the major red hotspots, the location of single crashes appears to move from year to year and is almost random. The best way to address the fact that single curve crashes can happen in an unpredictable way is to warn drivers of curves in a consistent manner across the state. This way, if a driver is unfamiliar with the road, is distracted, or is inexperienced, they at least know what kind of curve to expect when they see a warning sign. Why do we use signs as a way to address curve crashes? The enhanced delineation of curves is a proven safety countermeasure, as designated by the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA. A proven safety countermeasure is a treatment or strategy that has been research proven to reduce serious injuries and fatalities when implemented on roadways. Numerous studies have concluded that by installing arrows, chevrons, and curve warning signs, crashes can be reduced anywhere from 30 to 50%. Signs are considered a relatively low-cost countermeasure with quick installation. Knowing this, we requested town input on local road curves and determined which of these curves could benefit from signs and which didn't. Since this was a proactive approach, we couldn't just rely on recent crash history alone for this project. We had to determine which roads had the potential for crashes based on their layout and their surroundings. The primary crash risk factors we considered were advisory speed, the presence of an intersection, and whether the curve was on a hill. The advisory speed is the recommended speed a vehicle should travel to successfully navigate a curve. This takes the curve sharpness into account. The larger the difference between the advisory speed and the speed limit indicates the need for more warning signs. The advisory speeds in this project were determined by actually driving each of the curves. For an intersection in a curve, this is a location where side roads may be near or in a curve. In those locations, signs were recommended to warn drivers about vehicles turning into or out of the road. Finally, if the curve was on a hill, warning signs were recommended to let drivers know there is a curve that they may not be able to see. As I mentioned in the last slide, curve warning signs are an example of a proven safety countermeasure, according to the Federal Highway Administration, along with the other countermeasures shown on this slide. Additional information can be found here by Googling proven safety countermeasures and clicking on the first link. The department's safety engineering unit also has an informational website which provides additional information specific to Connecticut. Typical warning signs at curves include advance warning signs, which include signs that indicate the geometry of the road, like a curve or winding road, and the presence of side roads. Advisory speed plaques, federally required if advisory speed is at least 10 miles per hour below speed limit. Chevrons or one-direction large arrows are for curves where the advisory speed is at least 10 miles per hour below the speed limit. Retroreflective strips, which are applied to the post of a sign to make the sign more visible, are another type of sign. These are only applied to signposts for chevrons and large arrows. The number of signs recommended at each curve location depended on the advisory speed of the curve. If the advisory speed is equal to or 5 miles per hour below the posted speed limit, not many signs are needed. If it's at least 10 miles per hour below the speed limit, more signs are warranted. Looking at the map of District 2, we see all the different towns in eastern Connecticut. To make this project possible, the towns were contacted and input was received from 14 towns about the curves on local roads, which were to be studied to determine which warning signs were appropriate according to federal guidelines. Engineering studies were performed at all curves identified for possible treatment, over 280 curves shown in the highlighted towns. It was determined out in the field if signing treatment was necessary and appropriate signage was reviewed and recommended. Based on national guidelines for sharp curves, chevrons and large arrows were recommended for curves with intersections. Advance warning signs were designed. If the existing signs did meet our current guidelines, then the design recommendation is to simply replace the old, faded signs with newer, easier to see ones. We wanted to make sure our placement of signs was as consistent as possible while also taking into consideration local conditions. For example, if a proposed sign was blocking the view from a driveway or side street, the sign was relocated. Perhaps most importantly, the curve study identified road segments where warning signs were not warranted because the curve's advisory speed was the same or greater than the speed limit, or because the signs didn't conform to our guidelines. The goal of this was so that drivers have a consistent expectation of what a warning sign means and won't ignore warning signs. Some factors that were looked at to determine if a sign was not warranted is if the curve was located near a traffic signal. Also, signs were not warranted if the advisory speed was greater than or equal to the posted speed limit and there were no intersecting streets or hills present. Since this project deals with local roads, the towns will be notified of any requested curves that do not meet warrants for signing, and removal of any existing signs at those locations will be left up to the engineering judgment of those towns. Now, looking at the project schedule and costs. Final design plans will be completed in March of 2024. Advertising for construction will be in April of 2024. Construction is due to begin in the summer of 2024 and will likely be completed by summer of 2025. It's still to be determined when the project construction will start in each individual town. The construction cost of this project will be $365,000. This includes the actual sign installations and removals, police traffic control along the road, trimming of tree branches near signs, etc. This project is covered 100% by federal funds. And with that, I want to thank you for your time to listen to our presentation. And now it's time to hear from you in our live question and answer session. Remember, you can use the Zoom Q&A to send us live questions. You can also email us any questions or comments via the project email address or leave a voicemail message on the call-in phone line. We also want to encourage that you take our very brief feedback survey to help us improve how we deliver these virtual public information meetings. With that being said, do we have any questions from the email, voicemail, or the chat for us to answer?
Hello, thank you, Claire, for that great presentation. Good evening, everybody. We are looking to see if we have any questions that we're getting. I don't see anything in the emails or any voicemails. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A box over here in the chat on Zoom. Again, as a reminder, for those in chat, you can post your question in the Zoom live event chat. You can also contact us by email at dotproject0172-0508@ct.gov. And please note that the comment period is open for 2 weeks from today, so that would be December the 21st. Or feel free to leave a voicemail at 860-594-2020. Again, we have 2 weeks for that. The project webpage for any additional information is portal.ct.gov/DOT0172-0508. It looks like we do have a question from Derek. Will a draft design set be circulated to affected towns during preliminary design?
Yes. Design plans will be sent to the towns for their comment. That will also include any of the locations that might have been requested that don't warrant signs. So they will be notified of all of that, and we will be looking for their comment on the design plans, as they will be owning and maintaining these signs once they've been installed.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Hopefully that answers the question. See if there's any others that come in. Again, would also just like to remind everybody that we do have a survey. So we would like to remind and encourage everyone to participate in the survey, which can be found at portal.ct.gov/CTDOT survey. We will be reviewing all of the comments that we receive, so all the voicemails and emails during the public comment period until December 21st. But the live chat option is only available during the live event today. And again, just for general information about the project webpage does have a good amount of information about the project itself. All right, well, looks like at this time we have no more questions being asked or answered. So we wanted to thank everybody for joining us this evening. And again, reminder that the comment period is open until the 21st. Any project emails can be sent to us at dotproject0172-0508@cet.gov or by phone at 860-594-2020 and just leave a voicemail. And again, our project webpage does have a lot of the information, and we will be able to find a copy of the presentation there once it is uploaded, as well as a link to the brief survey that we mentioned earlier. So with that, I would like to thank everybody once again for your time, and enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.